Hello, welcome to Book Talk. At Book Talk, we get to have authors come and tell us about their book. And today we have a great guest with us who is going to tell us about a book that I'm having a bit of difficulty pronouncing. I don't know. I don't know, but he's going to explain and to us how to pronounce it. Sounds like vignette. Vignette. What language is that for those of you who are listening? Now, thank you very much for tuning in. Those who get to listen to this after we are through, we appreciate you taking your time and watching and or listening on the podcast platforms that we upload our program on. You can find all the past episodes and future episodes at bookplacemedia.com. So, without taking one more minute, I'm going to introduce our guest today, who is none other than Brad Forenza. Hi, Brad.
Hi, Anthony. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, it's such an honor that we are having you on our episode today. And
I feel the same. It's an honor to be here.
yes, and we are waiting to experience some beautiful things today in the show,
Yes, yes,
like
yes.
learning new words. Let's get started. Vignette. I spell it
Yes,
Vigne. That to me is vignettes.
you got it. You got it. You nailed it as you were introducing me. Vignettes.
Uh, okay. So
I think sometimes the more we think about it, the more we get in our head about it.
what language is that?
Hmm. I know it is an English word, but it does feel like it might come from French or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But
So,
you got me.
mm, okay. So, can we know who is Brad? Where were you born? Is that where you grew up? Is that where you are right now?
Oh, sure. What a wonderful existential question. Who is Brad? Well, I'm kind of learning more and more every day who Brad is.
Mm-hmm.
But technically, Brad was born in New Jersey, the beautiful, much maligned state of New Jersey. But we have so many great things. I was born and raised in the Jersey suburbs outside of Manhattan and spent many a summer weekend at the Jersey Shore, flew many times out of Newark Airport, spent many a moment climbing mountains in Sussex County and Passaic County, and also some good vacations to Atlantic City and Cape May. So that's my endorsement for New Jersey. But it also adds a lot to who I am. People sometimes can have impressions of Jersey people being maybe headstrong and assertive, and that's true. But
Mm-hmm.
so too is all the other good stuff.
Beautiful. And let's start here. How did you get started on writing, if I may ask?
Yeah, that's also part of the long road of who Brad is. I have always written. When I was younger, my grandpa, who had been a printer, a laborer, who worked at a printing press, printing books, printing newspapers, he would sit down with me and I would tell him the story that I wanted to write. And he would put it all into words. And he impressed upon me how to structure a sentence. He impressed upon me that copyright was important. It was important to have your name as part of the book. And he impressed upon me, probably most importantly, that writing could be fun. And before grade school, I was air quotes writing with my grandpa. Really, I was dictating to him. And my dad, who never was much of a writer, was very much a storyteller. So I think I got my technical training from my grandpa, who had a lot of patience, and my ability to tell stories and get people interested in what I had to say from my dad, very much a showman. And my grandpa, very much a technical, this is how we put the words in place kind of guy.
Hmm. That's beautiful. And what was your first work of writing, or vignette your very first work?
Vignettes is not my first publication.
Mm-hmm.
Vignettes is a collection of 10-minute plays. But my first publication for myself, my first creative publication, is a book called Reagan Babies, and that's a collection of essays, personal essays, some
Mm-hmm.
about my grandpa and other members of my family. They're all in there in some form. And as a professional, different from my personal creative writing, I've always written, sometimes resulting in publications, but I've also been a professional speechwriter. I can't kiss and tell, so I can't share who the clients were, but I've always written for public audiences. However, Reagan Babies, a collection of essays, followed by Vignettes, a collection of 10-minute plays. Those are my first two personal publications.
Beautiful. And how did vignettes come to be?
Vignettes came to be because I had these 10-minute plays that I wasn't quite sure what to do with through the years. There,
Mm-hmm.
there's an economy to a 10-minute play, and a number of them had made the rounds at 10-minute play festivals and received full productions where I wasn't producing them, other groups were producing them, and that was all really great and positive. And I just kind of wanted the plays to live a little more permanently in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I sought to publishing them. Strangely, fast forward to the pandemic, and there was also an opportunity to record some of these pieces in the new podcast medium. A
Mm-hmm.
scripted podcast is what came out of Vignettes. So, as you know, and writers listening probably experience as well, I don't think they're ever done, even if I can point pretty squarely to how they began.
Mm-hmm. So you put them together, and it's good that you mentioned about the pandemic because I'm always glad to hear good stories that came out of a bad story,
I agree.
so to
It's
speak. Hmm.
trying to the greatest extent possible to make, what is it? Make lemonade out of lemons. I was going to say the reverse.
Yeah. And what is your story based on? I mean, what's the genre of your stories? Of yeah,
So at present,
the
Vignettes,
plays. Hmm.
yeah, at present, in its current form, there are 20 short plays in Vignettes. And in its original form, I think there were 6 or 7 back in 2017 when it was first published. And those 6 or 7 had been developed over a long period of time, and those 6 or 7, some were inspired by personal experiences, and some were inspired by an idea. There's one play in there wherein the central conflict is that a talking bird, a talking cockatoo or cockatiel, an exotic bird, is kind of ratting out one of its owners, and that causes a conflict, that causes some domestic strife. That never happened to me. That never happened to any friend of mine, but I don't know how the idea was born. I just thought it was a humorous idea and I ran with it. And then I'll give you one other example just to offer a personal inspiration. My grandmother had, I live in an apartment building, and they're just telling us now that they're going to be testing the fire alarms. Isn't that sweet? Can you
That's
hear that?
sweet. That's sweet. He's gonna be
The
a part of
magic of a live podcast.
it
Can't
happens.
make it up.
So
So
I guess that's gonna find its way in the next part, the next edition of the vignette.
this little moment with doing a podcast with
Yeah,
Anthony M, who's so wonderful and having me on today, while the fire alarms are being tested. Absolutely. This is how I get inspired. And I'm sure you can relate as a fellow writer.
yeah, sure. Yeah,
Inspiration comes in all forms.
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
before they start testing, if I could offer the poignant story of my grandmother and her experience with Alzheimer's, that was the first piece in the first volume of Vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
Not her story carbon copied, but a story about a retired husband and wife going to Central Park in New York City and finding a bench with a dedication. And it's
Mm-hmm.
revealed through one of the characters continuously circling back to the dedication. It's never expressly stated, but it's revealed that maybe he's having some memory challenges. Maybe he's in the early stages of a
Okay.
longer term illness.
Okay. Um, Going through some of the stories, and I mean that's one maybe you talked about. And please let us know when they start the exercise. Is there going to be sirens and things like that?
My dog will let us know. They probably will have like a whoop, whoop, whoop. That's probably what we'll hear, and
Okay.
different variations of that.
Okay.
Apologies in advance. They don't tell us when they do these things.
It's okay. We understand that. So we are going to go on as far as we can make it. But going through the stories, I also have some other stories that I would be glad to have a mention of, or get a glimpse of what is happening in those play in that play. We have the park bench. What's happening there?
That's the one.
And that's the
That's the
one that you
one.
talked about. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Inspired by my grandma.
Okay. And then we talk about Wall Street. What's there?
Wall Street is the one with the bird. So back to back ones that we've talked about.
Oh, okay. It's good to know. And you give them single words or two words to make it short.
I do. You're right.
Okay. Let's see if the next part is going to be inspired by what is happening here. Is it something that is going to correlate with a red light, or what is at red light play?
Red light. Yes, it definitely correlates with what you would think a red light district might entail.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you have a professional woman, let's say, as her character is named, and you have an actuary in town on a business trip, and he meets this professional woman, and it's supposed to be a professional relationship. He's there for something specific, she's there to provide a service. And then in the first couple beats of the play, you realize that they both want a little bit more of that. They don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily want a relationship with each other, but they do want a connection with people, a connection with the universe that they're not currently getting in their current lives.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So many people that I mean, several stories that we may talk
Yeah.
about. We
And
have,
it's,
yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, there's a hint of topicality in that,
Yeah.
in the conversation around human trafficking. And in the context of a 10-minute play, I try to humanize that very topical issue. Of course, human
Mm-hmm.
trafficking, unfortunately, has happened forever, probably.
Yeah.
And yet, only recently is it getting the attention that it needs to get. So
Mm-hmm.
I tried to humanize some of that to the best of my ability.
Okay. Then we have one that is known "Be Here Now," and that's probably one of the three letter
I
titles.
think it's the only 3-word title in the
Okay.
collection as it currently exists. And Be
Mhm.
Here Now is about living in the moment. So a lot of these plays are inspired by a theme. And it's also broadly about the idea that nothing really ends.
Mhm.
And we spend a lot of time planning for our lives. I hesitate to say planning because I'm very guilty of probably being an over planner.
Mhm.
We spend a lot of time reflecting on things that have happened, which can preclude some of us from living fully in the moment. And I know your work speaks to that on some level as well.
Mm.
Being present.
Yeah, being in the present. Now, being in the present today is being on a podcast with a fire drill just about to happen.
Maybe.
And living in the present is not being deterred from doing what you want to do, but still moving on despite the warnings, despite the challenges, despite the pandemics that may be going through your life, uh, anything that wants to divert your attention into the negative. I want to believe that being here now is all that it entails. Moving
Yes,
on, living life to the full, and doing everything that you can possibly
yes,
do.
I agree. And we can never check all the boxes that we want to check or have all the experiences that we want to have, but the ones that we're privileged enough to live through, the ones that the universe is gratefully giving us.
Mm-hmm.
It's all easier said than done, but Be Here Now, the play that you referenced, is about trying to live in those moments and just appreciate what's happening around you as opposed to planning for the next thing.
Hmm. Wonderful. What other play would you want us to definitely hear before we get out?
Oh boy. Well, I would want your wonderful listeners to read all of them and purchase a copy of Vignettes if they're so inclined. There are some familiar characters, like an anxious young man on the cusp of proposing to his partner. It's
Mm-hmm.
called Subway Car, and hilarity ensues on that subway car. Let's see what else. There's Upper West, where two college professors maybe know a little bit too much, and good things come in threes. So, what's another one in there? The Museum. The
Mm-hmm.
Museum is about two lost souls
Mm-hmm.
reconnecting metaphysically
Mm-hmm.
at a museum in New York City. It's thinly veiled as the Museum of Natural History. And
Okay.
if your listeners would prefer, some of these stories, some of these plays live on as part of the Around the Sun podcast. All of these plays come to life as audio dramas, scripted radio plays. So
Mm-hmm.
everything old is new again. Who would have thought I'd spend part of the pandemic making radio plays with some really great talent?
Mm.
But I'll also add this, since I'm here to plug Vignettes through your good graces. I
Okay.
am on the cusp of publishing another version, and the copy that I shared with you before is the author proof of that version. So
Okay.
it's about to have twice as many plays in it in the
Mm-hmm.
next version of Vignettes.
Mm. Beautiful.
Yeah. So
Wonderful.
art is long, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's all a work in
That,
progress.
that would be wonderful. Always a work in progress. So,
Yes.
and we are glad that we are making some of the content as we are
Yeah.
moving.
And Anthony, if I can add,
Yes.
the production company that
Mm-hmm.
produced Around the Sun, the scripted audio drama, has the same branding as another phrase that you're partial to, best version of yourself.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So I think
That's wonderful. Uh-huh.
writing and expressing yourself and testing your limits, putting yourself out there and becoming a little vulnerable for audiences, readers, listeners, viewers who may not know you. I think all of that is at least part of our shared path to being the best version of ourselves, sharing a little bit of something and hoping that someone can relate to it and maybe learn from an experience.
Oh, yeah, sure. And we would like to thank you for taking your time and putting this together and bringing out here to us to listen to it,
Thank
and
you.
also the book to go and get the book and learn more about the place and
Yes.
a bit about yourself, I guess, much more in the
Yeah.
book. Uh-huh.
Well, thank you for having me. I apologize that you didn't get to hear the wonderful fire alarm they're on the cusp of testing, but I'm so appreciative that we got to talk about vignettes. It's available on all the online platforms, and You know what they are: Amazon, Barnes and Noble, etc. And Around the Sun is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
That's wonderful. We are definitely going to tag along the link to the Amazon on our website when we upload this episode on our website. And how can people connect to you if they want to reach out to you and yeah, no more?
People can connect to me through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. And there's no secrets. I'm at Brad Forenza, my name. And they can also similarly connect with Around the Sun with hashtag Around the Sun. Vignettes doesn't have its own hashtag yet, but
Okay,
if you Google for it and me, you'll find both of us.
beautiful. And your website
Is authenticallybrad.com.
that's www.authenticallybrad.com. So you can always go to that website and connect with Brad and learn about Vignette, learn about the 10-minute plays, the one he's already put down, and maybe also give him some more idea to
Yeah.
make the book bigger and bigger.
Inspiration comes from everywhere. And thank you again, Anthony, for having me on. I'm truly appreciative of this.
It's such an honor for you being here at bookplacemedia.com. We really appreciate your time. And at Book Talk, which is here at bookplacemedia.com, we always want our guests to leave us with something that we can always remember. And this is your time, Brad.
Oh, gosh, that's high stakes. Something that we can always remember.
Yeah.
Pay your taxes. Is that what you're looking for? Eat your fruits and vegetables. And for serious, although there's nothing unserious about that, I'll go with one of your adages. Do something good.
Oh, thank you. Be good for good. That's a hashtag. For those of you who are not familiar with it, that's be good for good. Always try to find the good, do the good, speak the good. That's it.
And pay it forward.
And pay it forward. And it has been a great time having you here, Brad. We really appreciate, and thank you very much. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you,
Yes, and
listeners.
yes, and go and participate in the fire drill. You never know. Okay, thank
All
you
right,
very
I'm going
much.
to give you a siren to go out on, just so we can pretend. I'll give you a siren so we can go
Uh,
out.
okay, okay, let's
Woo, 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 woo.
let's go. Let's go.